Hi everybody, my name's Jules Stone McLeod. Sorry about that, I just kicked my camera. I came on here yesterday to do a live at this time and it was crazy because the energy felt wrong, the subject felt wrong, and then Tash informed me that I had the day wrong. So I feel like it was totally the universe telling me that I needed to just switch the whole thing up. Hi Deb. Switch the whole thing up and do a completely different thing today that felt more in alignment with me. So my subject for today, so yesterday it was living from I Am Presence, which is relevant for where I'm living at the moment, but it also didn't light me up talking about it. So today I've changed the subject matter to Cosmic Psychonauts Adventures Through the Cosmos with Jules. So hi Maya. So yeah, let's just have a bit of fun today and have a chat. So I would love as much interaction as possible because I would just love to answer questions and chat back and forth because that's the way I roll. I prefer to do that than just speak at people and do workshops. So I'll start off with introducing myself properly. So my name's Jules Stone McLeod. If you want to find me at all after you've watched the video and you resonate and you're not friends with me, just find me on Facebook, friend request me, and you can read all of my stuff. So I'm a Reiki master of 5 different lineages, and I absolutely am super pumped about all things Reiki. So I'll start off with some personal stories and how I kind of got into Reiki. So I had heaps of childhood trauma, was very much stuck in my story in victim mentality for most of my life. And I had 3 children and I just completely felt lost. Like I didn't have direction. I had really bad anxiety. I'd had years of depression. I had postnatal depression as well. And I actually went and saw this psychic medium and she told me I was going to do Reiki in the future. And I went home and said to my husband at the time, like that psychic medium was so shit. Like I'm not even into Reiki. It's just not even a thing. And then probably 6 months after that, I just got this like feeling that I just had to find out more about Reiki. So I just started to look online and I found this Reiki level 1 course. So I went and did the course, and during the day of the course, I had so much anxiety that I just had to continuously go out of the room to regroup. I was almost having panic attacks. Just from stepping outside of my comfort zone and doing something different. And I was super embarrassed and mortified that I was just drawing all of this attention to myself. And anyone who's ever had had anxiety before will know that a big part of anxiety is like you get anxiety about having anxiety in front of people. So I was absolutely super self-judgmental on the day, and it was like a traumatic process. But I pushed through, I kept doing it, and then the master gave us, I went through Tantra and Reiki to do that, and so the master draws a master code on your hand, and that's how you end up being attuned to the energies. So after lunch, we got the opportunity to team up with each other and practice our new Reiki skills. So I teamed up with this beautiful elderly lady, and she practiced on me first, and I was just laying there at first thinking like, get me out of here, like can this day just be over so I can go home. Anyway, so the music started and she just put her hands in my hands with Reiki frequency, held my hand, and I felt this feeling of like pure, I know it sounds cliche, pure unconditional love. Like I felt like my whole life I had this massive void that I was trying to fill, and I tried to fill it before with food, with drugs, with, seeking external validation, codependency, with all these different things, trying to fill this void that I wasn't even aware that I was trying to fill this void. And I just felt this feeling of pure love, and it felt like it just went straight into that void and completely filled it up. And I just burst into tears and I was sobbing, and I was like, oh my gosh, now firstly I've been having bloody panic attacks and now I'm sobbing in class. But I couldn't help it. Like, it was so beautiful. It felt like I just returned home to this love. Like, I remembered the love that I came from. It was the most bizarre experience of my life, and it absolutely transformed me. And that was level 1. So straight away after that class, I knew that I was going to go all the way with Reiki. I had to become a master. So I was like, knew that was my path. So I went and did level 2. And so what happens with Reiki as well is that after you become attuned to those energies start to filter out into your life. So my anxiety started to get a lot better. And because I was started doing Reiki on other people, just friends and family at first, the Reiki energy was coming through me every time I would do it on somebody else. And so at first I didn't really understand, I just rolled with the process of how I was taught Reiki, but I still didn't completely believe that it was fully working, because it's not tangible, it's energy. So at first you're kind of like, am I doing it right? Is it really working? And I was second guessing myself all the time. So it wasn't until my husband at the time, he asked me to do Reiki on him, and I was working around, I felt drawn to just go to his heart, and I was working above his heart, so not even touching him. And so above him in the air, I was massaging his heart, and I could see it in my mind's eye, filling with this different frequency. It felt really dark and dense, and then it was filling with light and a different frequency. And so I thought that was really cool. And then when I finished, he said to me, it felt like you were massaging my heart. What were you doing? And I was blown away that what I was actually doing energetically, he could feel physically. So that really gave me a lot of confidence to just start believing messages that started coming to me during Reiki. So I went on to do level 2, and I had much less anxiety then, which was good. Still some, but less. And then I was hassling the master who was running the classes to do master training, because I just knew that was my path. And so for almost 12 months, I was hounding him, and he kept saying, yeah, I'm not running the class yet, I'm overseas, or he wouldn't answer emails, and there was always a reason why I couldn't do the master training with him. So then I just went, stuff it. So I just looked online for somebody else, and I came across Holy Fire Reiki. And so I read what it was about, and I thought, because what had happened as well, so I'll backtrack a little bit. So during these 12 months, when I was doing Reiki on other people, all these messages started coming through. I would see messages in chakras. I would see random stuff. Like one day I saw this yellow octopus in someone's solar plexus, and I was asked to pull out this octopus and get rid of it. And I'm always on the fence, back then I was on the fence, should I tell people this weird stuff that I see, or should I keep it to myself? But I told her, and she was like, oh my gosh, I dreamt last night I was pregnant with an octopus. So anyway, I started seeing all this random stuff, clearing blockages, getting energetic chisels and chiseling stuff out, removing padlocks from heart chakras that had the doors closed over it, and padlock after padlock after padlock, they'd fully closed off their heart. And so I started to understand that the things that I would see would be metaphors for certain blockages or certain things going on in their lives. And I started to understand how to decipher those messages. So anyway, then I read about Holy Fire Reiki, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been doing all along, and I didn't know what I'd been doing, because I had been emailing my master and saying I think what I'm doing now is not even Reiki. Can you tell me what I'm doing? Because I'm literally not doing what you taught me to do, but I feel like I'm meant to do it. And he didn't answer my emails, so I was just floundering, okay, I'm just going to keep doing it, but I don't really know what I'm doing. So I came across this Holy Fire Reiki. And so, so from what I understood at the time, it was only being taught overseas. But I knew that I needed to do it. So I just started ringing around the area, all different Reiki masters, and just asking them, do you know anyone that does Holy Fire Reiki? And so I came across this one lady, and she said, you wouldn't believe it, one of my students has just been in the US studying Holy Fire Reiki to become a master, and he's only just returned from overseas, but he has never taught anyone before. Would you be interested in learning from him? And I was like, oh my gosh. So I contacted him, and he said, yeah, I haven't really taught anyone before, but I'm happy to just do one-on-one with you if you like. So we did this 3 days of intensive training, just him and I, and it like blew my mind. So what happened? So not only just the actual, what I learned about Holy Fire and the teachings of it, but also the process. So what happens, so I'll explain a bit about Holy Fire compared to the different Reiki. Like Reiki that was channeled to the earth like 100 years ago, it's actually the 100-year anniversary this year. So when it was channeled 100 years ago, the frequency of that Reiki was channeled to the earth at the frequency that the earth could handle at that time. So anyone who's spiritually aware will know that the frequency of the earth has dramatically shifted from 100 years ago. And so Holy Fire was channeled in 2014. So it's completely like innovative, new energy, and it's a much higher frequency because it's what's been channeled more recently. It's like quantum Reiki. And so traditional Reiki feels more like a healing, whereas Holy Fire Free Reiki feels more like an activation and a purification. And so it aligns you more with Christ consciousness frequency instead of unconditional, like just unconditional love, not just unconditional love frequency, that's super high, but it's a different frequency. And so it can be intense, it can be life-changing. Like sometimes I have people leave my sessions at the end of the session and they're like, you have like changed my life. Like it's total transformation in 1 hour. It's crazy. But anyway, when I did the Holy Fire 3 training, instead of being attuned to the energy, which the energies in traditional Reiki come through the master. So if you can imagine all the lineages of masters that the energy has come through has then been diluted. So by the time it's come to me, there's diluted energy. Whereas Holy Fire 3 Reiki comes, the master steps aside and just allows it. And so it comes directly down from Christ consciousness. So it's super intense, and they're called ignitions instead of attunements. And you have 4 ignitions over those 3 days. So over those 3 days, my first, so I had not had, so as much as I was seeing like messages and stuff and getting psychic messages, things like that, I hadn't really had spiritual experiences. And there had been many times throughout my life where I had just been like on my knees, like, God, if you exist, give me a sign. And I was on the fence, like, does God exist? I wasn't sure if I believed it. So I hadn't had spiritual experiences before. So during the first ignition, I felt like over my crown and over my forehead, this massive hand proportionate to nothing I had experienced before. And it had a warmth, and it had this like frequency where I just felt like I've returned home. Like those near-death experiences that you read about where they just transform and they return never to be the same. It's like that. And I knew that it was the hand of God, and He'd put His hand on me. And I know, like me explaining it to you now, like the words, I cannot articulate energetically how intense it was. It was like one of the most intense moments of my life, and it was so it was just so clear to me that that was the truth of what it was. So I felt the hand of God in the first one. In the second one, I saw myself and also felt myself sitting on Jesus's hip, as if I was a young child, and I laid my head on his shoulder, and he was like standing on this cloud just chatting to the angels as if it was just a normal daily event. And I felt like it was just a normal daily event, like he was my like paternal image. And I'd grown up with lots of abuse from my father. I'd never experienced a father's love before. I had no idea what that even felt like, to feel safe with a man. And so to feel that paternal energy where I felt like he was my father was just mind-blowing to me. Not mind-blowing in the moment because it felt so right, but afterwards, mind-blowing. So that was my second ignition. Then my third ignition, I heard a woman's voice in my ear, and previous to that, I'd never had like auditory messages. I'd always seen visuals. I heard a woman's voice in my ear, and she said, "You are here to heal the earth." And in my mind, I just asked who it was, and she said, "Your Mother Mary." So Mother Mary came to me and told me I was here to heal the earth. And then the fourth ignition, which was like the most intense, because they get more intense as they go on. The fourth ignition, so I was laying there, and above me I could see these like kind of like pastel clouds just floating above me, and it had like all grid work above it that was like luminescent. And I felt myself become like pure crystalline energy. It was like my whole body, my energy, my consciousness, everything became pure crystalline energy. And it was kind of like, you know, when you see selenite lamps or selenite rods and they're really raw and you can see like the shards of crystal, it was kind of like that. And they kept shifting and moving and kind of locking in place until they settled. And once they settled, then I felt myself just attached to this crystalline grid. And it was like intense and mind-blowing, and I didn't really understand what it meant, but I just knew that I had become crystalline, and I didn't even know what crystalline was back then. So that was amazing. So after that, I also went on to become a master of other lineages as well. One of them is Arcturian master actually, which is galactic frequency of 70D, which is really cool as well. I don't use that as that much, but I have been attuned to those frequencies, so it's really cool. So then after that, I started working very differently, started having these major transformations with people's energy. And then one day I was asked to work on this little baby, and so normally I'd access their energy and I could see their chakras. So I accessed his energy and I couldn't see chakras. Instead, I saw this pure crystalline spine running from the throat chakra down to the root chakra. He still had his third eye and his crown and all the higher transpersonal chakras, but he didn't have the lower ones. So I just didn't really know what it meant, but I knew that this baby was of pure frequency. He was a different frequency, like there was a different energy about him, and he didn't feel as dense as other people that I'd worked on. He felt like he was light body. And so when I worked with him, so his mum brought him to me because he was waking up screaming all the time, like all the way through the night, like 20 times a night sometimes, and he'd wake with a jolt and be screaming. And so then I tapped into him, and then I found him starting to speak with me telepathically and just tell me everything that was going on, and I could understand like what his experience was. And he was speaking to me in words, it wasn't just images. And so he told me that he was off astral traveling of an evening when his mum thought he was sleeping, and that he didn't want to be on Earth. He didn't like the density of Earth. And so he was rejecting it, didn't want a bar of it. He hadn't yet integrated into Earth, and when he would return to his body, he just hated it. So he'd just wake up screaming. So I did work on him, and he had these massive shifts. But that started to show me that there was a different energy system that people were working from. So then, crazily, these children just synchronistically started guiding their parents to me for healings, and parents would ask me, can you do healings on my child? And then I'd find all these crystalline children. And so, yeah, there was some crazy experiences, and I started to learn so much stuff about the galaxy. Thanks, Tash. It is a powerful journey. It's been so cool. I can't believe I have access to all this stuff. I feel really blessed. So I started to work on all these different kids. And so one day I was asked to work on this little boy. I think he was about 5, and his mum told me he was a math genius. And he was on the spectrum. He had autism and he was nonverbal, or a few words here and there, but he couldn't communicate very well. And so I tried to tap into his energy, and I always ask people's higher selves before I access their energy, even if I get parental consent. So I tapped into his energy, and he was just like, no, you're not coming in. So then I, contacted his mum, and I said, he won't let me in, but I'm going to just come in and have a little chat and say hello every single day until he starts to trust me and let me in. So then I just went in every day. Hi, how are you? It's Jules. Are you ready for the session? He'd just be like, no. He would just totally bar me. And then eventually this one day, it was like he just got like pissed off with me for annoying him all the time. And he like shut my computer down, because I sit and do reports while I'm working. And he literally like shut my computer down. And so my computer was plugged in, everything was working. And so the report that I'd started on him, I lost everything. So it was already saved, and it still got wiped from my computer. So I was like, he really doesn't want me to work with him. So, but I persisted, and I still didn't even ask him about a session. I just went in every day and just kept saying hi. And eventually, and I got his mum to show him my photo and stuff like that. So eventually he ended up letting me in and saying yes. And then we ended up becoming really good mates energetically. And he told me he was from Andromeda, and he told me that I asked him if he was into numbers, and he was just like, I am numbers. Numbers is who I am, and where I come from, it's all numbers. And he taught me about teleportation and how to teleport. And the crazy thing is that because often I'll get messages or I'll get information from children or clients, and I have no idea what they actually mean until I look it up afterwards. And it's just the biggest buzz for me once I look stuff up afterwards and see that it actually is alignment with what I've been told, because then it's confirmation that it's actually truth, even though it feels truth to me. Sometimes it's nice to double check that you're not deceiving yourself. So anyway, so his mum said that he hardly says any words, and then he woke up the next morning and went into her and said the word purple. And she was like, purple, what does that mean? And I was like, I don't know. So I looked up Andromeda and purple, and there was all this information around how Andromeda is like the purple galaxy, and it has this purple light around it. Like, it was so mind-blowing to me. So then I've worked with all these other children, and I worked with one who's an aspect of Nefertiti, reincarnated, Ra, the sun god. I've worked with King Solomon. I've worked with King Triton from Atlantis. And he had all these blocks because he just felt so much guilt around the fall of Atlantis. And these are all like people that I have no idea who they are until I look them up afterwards. I've worked with Roman emperors. I've worked with all these like amazing children that are now here on the earth, and all of them have been crystalline. That they're here on the earth to like take us next level. So all these people that are in fear around, what's happening with the earth and all that, I'm in so much non-resonance with that, because I can see that this new generation of children and where they're taking us and what they know and who they are, it's mind-blowing. So then I'll just backtrack a little bit. I was going to Ascended Master training. So this is where, meditation. So I used to go there every Wednesday night, and I'd get, and the guy that ran it, he'd like channel Ascended Masters through, and they'd give these beautiful messages, not personal ones, but ones about, just humanity in the world and stuff like that. But it would take our frequencies really high. So after Ascended Master meditation one night, I went out to my car, and I was in the car, and then I was channeled this code, what I believe to be a code. And so I felt it just like above my crown. It was just hovering. And again, when I explain it to people, it doesn't sound like it's that amazing, but energetically, it was like so powerful. So I felt it above my crown, and I was like, because I knew about symbols from Reiki, but I didn't really understand what codes really were. So I got channeled this thing that I was told was a code, and it was galactic. I got told it was galactic. It was like golden but luminescent, and it was spinning around, and it made this weird noise. And so I knew that it was my code, like it was my master special code that was going to bring in new frequencies for me and a new way of doing things. And so the next day I was at the, hi Melinda, thanks Kylie. So the next day, this is a funny story, I was at the mechanic, which is the most three-dimensional human thing you can do, just go and get new tires put on your car. So I'm sitting at the mechanic, and I looked down, and I could see all these golden codes just pouring out of my palms. And it was like once the frequency of that code fully implanted into my consciousness, these codes just started pouring out. And so these codes they were tiny, but they were like encased within this golden energy. So here I am sitting at the mechanic, and I could see these like golden codes. And I just called my friend, and I just could not stop laughing hysterically at how ridiculous this situation was, that I was getting these codes pouring out of my palms while getting tires put on my car. So after that happened, I started seeing people's master codes in their third eye. And what I discovered was that everybody has a different master code. Everyone has their own individual master code, and I can activate the master codes to activate things within them. So I'd be grocery shopping and walking around the streets, and I'd just see like random master codes in people, which was really cool to see the different ones, because they look different, which I discovered later. So everyone's looks different, but they have a certain style about them if they're from a certain star family. So like, the people that are from the Lyran people, their master codes look different to the Arcturian people, like they have a different style. So I started to see different master codes in people, and I could see like where they were from. So that was really cool. And then I got channeled this, so I woke up one morning. So again, I hardly would ever hear stuff like an actual voice in my ear. If I ever understood stuff telepathically, I didn't hear it in my ear. I would just kind of know those words. Whereas I actually heard a voice in my ear when I woke up one morning, a male voice, and it said, you need to track the frequency of the neutral diametic. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? So I quickly wrote it down so I didn't forget it, but I still was just like, what the hell? And then coincidentally, that same week, I was asked to do a session on a teenager, and he didn't run off the chakra system, and he didn't run off crystalline system either. He ran off a different system, and I was told it was the codal system. And he was just so higher frequency than the crystalline children, that he was pure codes. And they asked me, and it was different. It seemed more like galactic and technical, not so much love frequency. Galactic and like Christ consciousness, they feel like different frequencies. So this one seemed like more technical, and they asked me to get this machine and hook him up, and it was like connected to all of the synapses in his brain. And mind you, I'm not technically minded at all. Like, give me a number and I just glaze over and tune out. So I don't know why they've chosen me to channel all of this stuff through, but they asked me to hook him up to this machine, and it was like a set and forget. I didn't have to stand there and do all this work. I just had to sit there and wait until the machine went in, and it like reconfigured all of his distorted codes and recalibrated his system, and just ran all the way through until it was like bing, it told me it was finished, and then I could turn the machine off. So that was really cool. And then the same week I had another child come to me that also ran off the codal system. So I was just like, what is this? So then I went and saw Steph Lavelle. So she's also in Warriors of Light, and she channels geniuses. So I was like, I need to find out more information, but I don't know what it is. I need to put the puzzle pieces together. So she told me all this information about it, and it was about that the codal system is my own modality, and that I will be working on it in the future. And it'll be like different sessions with people where I'll turn on their codes, and I'll activate different things, and then there'll be key codes that govern different things, like their emotional body, their physical body, their energetic body. So yeah, and tracking the frequency of the neutral diametic is how I use Reiki to understand what those codes are governed by. So that was just so cool to find out that information. So thanks, Steph. So that was the codal system. But back to crystalline. So the crystalline children then started giving me information that I needed to be helping like leaders in movements of consciousness, and also parents of crystalline children who are often quite spiritual and leaders in their own right, but they are not aware of it yet, to become crystalline, so they could be the forerunners in all of this process and support the crystalline children to be ushered through. Sorry, I'm just going to pause for a bit of a drink. So I was like, okay, so how's this going to work? So I was channeled all of this information about how the crystalline program would work. So that's the program I'm currently running at the moment. And it's bloody mind-blowing and super fun and out there and weird as hell, but I love it. So crystalline is a 5 to 6 week program. And initially, so it's different to most programs that anybody probably would have done, because it's mostly energetic and it's a massive consciousness upgrade. So you upgrade from running off the chakra system to the crystalline system. And so the first week I just go in and prep their energy and suss out where they're at, suss out where their chakras are at. And often people that are already on the frequency that are ready for crystalline, their chakras have already started becoming quite dense and heavy and are actually holding them back. And they would be feeling like they've got some block that's holding them back, but not really, they're not in the awareness that it's actually their outdated chakras that are holding them back. And so that's what I do in the first week. I just go and prep the energy, suss out where their chakras are at, and just fiddle around a little bit, remove blockages and all that, preparing their chakras. So the second week I do what I've called a chakra dissolution, but it's more like a chakra deactivation. So I don't pull the chakras out and just like chuck them in the bin or anything. I deactivate them. I kind of dissolve them. I put a little solution in them and they start to just slowly, so I do it over 2 nights. The first night they become colorless, and the second night they just start to like dissolve their frequency. And so then the third week is when the crystalline upgrade starts. So it's really interesting between the second week and the third week, because people are actually not running off an energetic system. They're in like void space. So that's been some crazy experiences during that void space period. But in the third week is the most exciting week of the whole program. And that's a 3-night period. And the first night I go in and just add some crystalline drops into some of their DNA to start preparing their body and their energetic body as well for the crystalline spine, because otherwise it's just a massive shock to the system. And so then on the second night is where the best shit happens, and that's where I get presented with these amazing, mind-blowing crystalline spines. So I just reach up and they get handed to me, and I implant these spines into people's energetic bodies. And I connect all of their vertebrae, and I activate the spine by switching on their master code. And yeah, it's been mind-blowing. So what I found that people receive their spines from different places. So people have received Arcturian spines, and they've been blue with blue codes. The Larian spines, I think, were green with silver codes. The Syrian spines been clear with silver codes. Some of them have come directly from the Galactic Federation of Light, and they've been gold with gold codes. The angelics have given me some which has been clear with gold codes. Where else? I'm just thinking. Oh, the Andromedan ones are purple, of course. I think they might be purple with purple codes, I think. But yeah, they're all amazing. And I had one from the Aztecs as well. And even that in itself was, I got on and I was told it's from the Aztecs, and I was just like, I'm sure the Aztecs were like on Earth, not galactic. And then I looked up the Aztecs, and there's actually a galaxy that's recently been discovered called Aztec, which is crazy to me. So that was really cool as well. That's the best. And then the night after that, I just go in and like recalibrate the spine a bit and make sure it's all connected properly. A bit like when someone gets a heart transplant and you have to, you know, make sure it's taking properly. And then the week after that, it's recalibration as well. And then the week after that, it's anchoring. So I anchor the spine in then, which is often when people feel more shifts is when it's anchored. And so what I've discovered is people are having different experiences. So some are like activated super fast and are just like, freaking hell, what's going on? This is so cool. And others are like, it's a slow burn where, so whatever is required, and it's an individual journey. Everybody's different. There is no normal. And so, yeah, what I've discovered is that some people take like 3 months for it to take and need extra support from me. And some people are like activated straight away. And so I've just written down some experiences that people have given me feedback about as to their experiences after crystalline and receiving the spine. So I'm just going to read them out because they're super cool. So people have reported growing physically taller, which is just mind-blowing to me. I mean, it makes sense once you get a new spine that you'd be taller. But yeah, that's mind-blowing to me that they are literally physically taller. They've reported living in the moment, being in flow, experiencing non-attachment. So that's been the one that every single person has said that. So when my subject yesterday was living from I am presence, that's what they've said that they've hit, is that experience of a non-attachment where you feel this oneness with everything. You're not getting triggered by stuff. And you feel like no matter what's happening around you, you are super centered. You know exactly which direction you're headed in. You feel like this inner peace and this calm and this sense of like everything is happening perfectly as it should. So you pretty much just become Buddha. Just joking. So they also have said that they've experienced feeling like they're everywhere at once, moving from being cerebral to just being completely present, back pain easing, arthritis symptoms disappearing, feeling electrical pulses like they are rewiring new frequencies, becoming magnetic and attracting what they desire, dreaming vividly, no longer feeling attached to their past issues or stories, that's a big one, astral traveling for the first time, star beings appearing to assist them with their work, more clarity, authority, trust and insight, no longer wearing glasses after 35 years, that's crazy, becoming hyper-focused, seeing the inner workings of the body, feeling subtle things that could not be felt prior, words becoming tactile, windows opening to other dimensions, and feeling as if the light has come on and they have come home. So that is so cool. That's just amazing, amazing outcomes. But yes, I was going to say something about one of those, but I've lost that now. Yeah, big one is not being attached to the past issues or stories. So now, like myself included, if I talk about my past, which was super, super traumatic, I feel like just a non-attachment to it. It's like, yeah, I know it's my story, but because so much of my identity has fallen away and I'm not operating from a space of ego and I'm operating from a space of divinity, then those stories just bear no meaning to me. They just are what they are. It literally, I'm so non-attached to it. And other people are experiencing the same thing. And a big thing that they've experienced as well is having spiritual experiences now. People that have never been able to open up and channel stuff or open up and get messages, and now getting them through. They're having like galactic beings come into their rooms while they're working. Like lots of crazy stuff has opened up to them. It's been super, super cool. So what I might do is just open up and ask if anyone has any questions to ask me. And I'll just check how long I've been on for. Can someone tell me how long I've been on for? Because I can't really tell from here. Deb, you've had the biggest shift. Non-attachment to being adoptive was huge. Yes, yes, that is huge. And what I found as well is that so many people that have done crystalline, thanks Tash, because they've been working in the spiritual field for, a while, what they've done is they cycled around in the healing journey over and over, and it's been this ongoing thing where it's like one step forward, two steps back, and they come to awarenesses and have some shifts, but they don't actually like really step out. So this feels like instead of like doing the healing and cycling around in it, doing a bit more, you're not doing the healing anymore. You fully unhook from the healing. It's like above that cycle of healing. And it's really amazing. And you still have experiences, like I just had a period recently where for almost 4 months, I just felt like I needed to go inward. And that was my journey for that time and what I needed to do. But it's different. It's different to those cycles that I used to be in before, where it was like that spiritual awakening cycle where it's a full-on death and, you just feel like you're having a nervous breakdown, and then you have these awarenesses and it's up and down and up like this roller coaster. It's not like that. It's just an intentional, I'm so attuned with myself. I know this is what I need right now, and I'm going inward, and I'm totally cool with that. And when I'm ready, I'll come out. Like, it's just like so peaceful. It's a completely different experience. And so if there's not any questions, what I might also talk about just for fun is this little like side gig I was doing for a while. So when I started to tap into crystalline and have all these spiritual awarenesses and spiritual stuff happen, and so much opened up, and I opened up to galactic stuff and all that. At the same time, all the shit was going down with the world, which I know everybody watching is totally aware of. So I was like in the zone of finding out all that stuff back then. I'm not really there now. I'm not attached to that stuff at all. Like, I'm completely in where we're going, not so much all that vibration. Actually, I'm not even attached to where we're going. It's more just being. But back then, I had to go through that process, which I'm sure most of you have done. So I was finding out all this information, and then I got the information that I needed to be a part of this, and I needed to somehow help humanity in uncovering the evil and all the stuff that was going on. So I was just like, okay, I'm just going to go and remote view, because I started doing remote viewing in my work when I was doing Reiki. I found, working with the crystalline children, they were showing me how to remote view, and I started to be able to remote view different things, past lives, all that kind of stuff. So I decided I'm going to remote view and just go and suss out what was going on. So I put a call out online. Who wants to be a part of this mission? It's going to be spiritual warriors, and we're just going to go and do this mission. just for fun. Or, you know, it doesn't really sound like fun uncovering evil, but just for fun, we're going to do it. So I had all these people, there was like 100 people in my group. People were either holding space for me, they were sending me energy. I had ones come along with me. There was like this Maori girl that was like riding a whale. I had Aboriginal people come along, and then I had this contact from this guy, and he was like, this is what we do for a living, is actually block and protect all of these dark energies. Do you want us to come and block and protect for you? And I was like, that would be so cool. Who are you? And he's like, we're Black Ops men, and there's 50 of us, and we can come and protect and block and shield you, and I'll teach you how to go from place to place so your energy is untraceable when you return. And I was like, I can't believe there's people doing this in the world. Like, how cool is this? So I know, it's the best story, Tash. It's the best story. So anyway, so I was just like, cool, let's do it. So he came along, so the main guy came along with me, like side by side, energetically. We both tapped in at the same time. And he came with me, and he showed me how to place a pyramid around me. And if I was going to a certain place, like just say I was going to Sydney, I'd have to go 3 different places before I'd get to Sydney in this pyramid. And so then they couldn't trace me going from my place like straight to there. So I went and saw, I won't mention any names, but I went and saw certain prime ministers that were around at the time, and I was watching him, and I spoke with him telepathically, and I found out exactly why he was making the choices that he was making, and I reconnected him with his altruistic mission. He wasn't evil, even though he was making some shitty choices. Reconnected him with his altruistic mission of why, when he was a kid, that he wanted to be a leader. So that was really powerful. I went and saw some of the premiers as well. Some of them were evil. One of them, a female, which I won't mention names again, she actually shapeshifted into a crazy being that I don't recognize. And she was sitting in her office in her dressing gown working. And she looked up and she saw me in the corner of the room, and she freaked out. And then I just tried to send energy for her to stop doing what she's doing, and I left. And it was only like, I think maybe 1 or 2 days later that she actually quit being a premier. So I don't know if that was my input, but it was certainly coincidental that it happened at that time. So yeah, I went and saw others, and when we both returned, I spoke to this guy on the phone, and we were just like, fuck, what just happened? Like, that was so cool. And he was right there watching the Prime Minister with me, and his experience of what happened was exactly the same as my experience. So we were like, this definitely happened. Like, it was so cool. And I'm pretty sure that same week as well, the Prime Minister gave a speech about freedom for Australia, which that was mind-blowing as well. So then after that, I went in another time and did another mission. And this time I worked with world leaders from overseas, and I went in the underground tunnels, and I saw some of the evil happening in there and organ harvesting, and I went underground Uluru as well. But I actually went and saw one, can't think of the word, one ex-president. I won't mention his name either, but I'm sure you guys all know that there's a specific president that was around a few years ago, a couple of years ago, that was very popular with everybody. I went and saw him, and he and I were like sick tight, like he's the best. And he was just like, Jules, it's so good to see you. And we were like long lost friends, and I asked for his advice. And so he's actually like an angel of the highest caliber. And yeah, he gave me advice on how to help these people leak their energies. So he told me that I needed to create divots in their energy, and wasn't even really sure what the word divot meant, but he was just like, you've got to like chip away at the energy field, and slowly it will start leaking out. So I returned to all those people that I had worked with, that I had gone and seen, and started chipping away at their energy. And yeah, during one of those missions as well, I went to this really dark place and I saw them doing these like blood rituals as well. It was super intense. But then afterwards, when I looked up this president and divot, I realized that it's actually a golfing term and he's heaps into golfing. So that too was like really cool. So I've had some crazy experiences with that. And the guy that taught me how to protect my energy taught me that on my way back, being in the pyramids, going to 3 different places, each place I'd have to blow up the pyramid and then keep replacing it with a new one and blow up the pyramid again and protect my house with the same thing as well. So that was really cool. So that's been a fun thing to go and do that stuff. But yeah, I would love some interaction and love to see if anyone has any questions or anyone has any questions about crystalline, because I absolutely love talking about it. I'm so passionate about people moving into crystalline frequency because that's where we're headed. That's where the earth is headed. And what's really cool, what's really cool about crystalline as well is because then the lower dense chakras that are outdated are like not working anymore, it actually makes your sacred heart come online. And your sacred heart is like here in your sternum, and that's like witness consciousness. And so it's kind of like your inner experience and your outer experience become super like aligned with each other. And you're able to see things from a different perspective. And that's where like, as soon as you see something happening, you get the inner experience of it. Like it's completely different. Yes, Deb, I do run Reiki courses online. I did one last month actually. So yeah, your sacred heart comes online. And what's really cool as well, does anyone know what anking is? I'll just ask if anyone knows what that is or they're interested in hearing about anking. So I'll just start talking about it. So anking is what the ancient Egyptians used to do and they believed that that was the key to immortality. And so it's to do with orgasming. So usually when people orgasm, their energy runs up their spine and it goes out their crown or it goes back down and it's depleted energy, and it actually depletes your life force and leads to, us perishing at some point or transitioning. Whereas the way the ancient Egyptians used to do it, it actually circulates back into your body. So if you've ever seen the anking symbol, it's like a cross with a circle above it. And so in anking, like when you ank, it's all to do with your spine and your sacred heart. And so this actually helps that come online as well. So there's a technique to it. If anyone wants to learn the technique, you can just send me a message and I'll send you information about the anking technique and how to do it. But it pretty much goes up to your sacred heart and you push it out the back of you and around the front, and it hooks in and it just keeps circulating and circulating and circulating. And it's intense and it's like you feel like you've gotten life force and elevated afterwards. So that's just a little side thing that's really cool about crystalline as well. So I'm just going to check my notes and see if there was any other stuff that I wanted to mention. So also in crystalline as well, it creates this pyramid between your pineal gland, your pituitary gland, and your atlas bone, which is at the back. Let's have an anchor together. You're such an anchor, Lucy. So it creates this pyramid between the three, and it fires up a diamond light. So I see a diamond. So when I activate the master code, I see a diamond light shining out the back and shining out the third eye. It's like they're attached. So that's really cool as well. So it's like diamond stuff, crystalline, sacred heart. It's like super intense, but in a good way. Also, I was just going to mention as well, so then what's really cool is that after I've done crystalline, months down the track, often I'll have those people come to me for sessions. And it's really interesting to hear how much they're now like tapping into galactic frequencies in their star families and what they're doing with their work and all stuff like that. And how their personal life has shifted as well. And so I worked on one the other day, which I won't mention names in case they don't want me to, because I haven't asked them. But I worked with one the other day who was had gotten her spine from the Lyrans, and I was working on her, and for some reason they were like, you need to put these little antennas in her ears. So I'm just like, I now just trust the process. Whatever weird shit I'm told to do, I just do. So I put these little antennas in her ears, and you know with an antenna how you can like fold it into itself. So they were like out here, but then I just folded them inside her ears so you couldn't like see them. And anyway, and then afterwards I told her, like, I don't know why, but they've asked me to put antennas in your ears. I've never been told to do that before with anybody, so I've got no idea why they would ask me to do that. And she was like, oh my gosh, she said, I actually have been speaking to the Lyrans all week and asking them if you are real, and if I can get messages from you, I want to hear you with my ears. And so then they asked me to put antennas in. So that was so cool. I love that. And then the week after, I had another lady who I also won't mention her name in case she doesn't want me to, come and see me. Actually, she will, because she said it in my testimonial. So that was Tash. She came to see me, and they asked me to put an antenna out of the top of her spine that goes right up here. And she had asked for clarity. And so the spine goes right up the top, and she herself can fold it in or pull it up. So if she's just doing random stuff around home, she can have it down. But if she actually wants to tap in and tune in and get messages and connect to higher frequencies, she can pull it up and like tune it with her fingers like that. And then she can access those frequencies. So that's been really cool as well, the follow-up of Crystalline and seeing how then they want to like really connect, because they really want to connect with us. And they're there to help us and support us in anything that we want to do. Like, we're absolute rock stars to them, that we're here on Earth and we're on the ground doing all the things, doing all the hard yards. Like, we are rock stars. And the Galactic Federation of Light, they're like watching over us, and the Intergalactic Federation of Light as well. We've got so many people looking out for us. So yes, that's been amazing. So I will just ask one more time if there's any questions, and if there isn't, I'll sign off for now. But anybody who wants to contact me, I don't have an Instagram or a website or a Facebook business page at all. All of the work I do is just through my normal Facebook or word of mouth, or just people being randomly magnetized to me or synchronistically find me, because that's how I roll. But if you do want to find me on Facebook, Jules Stone McLeod, send me a message or send me a friend request, and I'm happy to chat to you about anything. So yeah, I always love meeting more aliens that don't realize they're aliens yet. That's always super cool to see them uncover that and see people transform. So yes, I think I'll sign off. Thank you so much, everybody, and go and buy the paperback of Warriors of Light, because it's an amazing book with so many amazing stories in it. Thank you.